For decades, this story was left to rot in dusty archives, but the truth we uncovered is far darker than anyone could have imagined. What you're about to hear was buried for a reason, and someone went to great lengths to make sure no one ever found out. It started on a quiet night, in a town where nothing ever happened, until it did. A scream cut through the darkness. Neighbors said it was like nothing they'd ever heard before. By morning, the house on the corner was empty. No bodies, no signs of a break-in, just blood smeared across the kitchen floor, and the strange silence of a family that had simply ceased to exist. Police arrived, but their official report told a different story. They called it a robbery, a random act of violence. Case closed, but people in town whispered something else. That the family had enemies, that they were keeping secrets no one dared to talk about. One old man swore he saw men in dark coats leaving the house that night. Authorities said he was confused. But then, years later, while the house was being demolished, a hidden crawlspace was found beneath the floorboards. Inside was a single object, a rusted metal box filled with photographs. The photos showed the family smiling, normal, happy, until the last one. The final image showed them standing with two strangers whose faces had been scratched out with something sharp. Who were they trying to erase? But that's not even the worst part. Tucked beneath the photos was a piece of paper. It was a letter, and what it said was enough to turn the entire case upside down. The letter named names, not of strangers, but of people everyone in town trusted. Local leaders, officials, people who swore they had nothing to do with what happened that night. And this is where the story takes its darkest turn. The detective who found the box tried to reopen the case, but within a month, he was gone. Car accident, they said. No investigation, no follow-up, almost like they wanted it all to disappear again. But we kept digging, and what we found next will leave you speechless. There was a diary, buried in an attic of a relative's house, collecting dust for decades. The entries described threats, visits late at night, people watching from the street. The family knew something was coming. They even wrote, "If we disappear, it wasn't an accident. Everything you thought you knew about this case is about to change." Because the final pages of that diary hint at something far bigger than one family, a pattern of disappearances stretching back years, all connected by the same handful of names. It's no longer just a murder mystery, it's a cover-up. And the truth behind it is more terrifying than anyone ever dared to admit. Stay with me, because what comes next will expose exactly who was behind these forgotten murders, and why they were erased from history in the first place. What we uncovered next changes everything. We traced the names in the diary and discovered something chilling. Every single one belonged to people tied to a secret group that controlled nearly every decision in that small town. Judges, police chiefs, council members. The very people sworn to protect the community were the ones pulling the strings behind its darkest crimes. And it didn't stop there. We found records of other incidents, swept under the rug, fires that destroyed entire houses just days before investigations were set to begin, witnesses who vanished overnight, reports that were mysteriously lost in evidence rooms. It was systematic, planned, cold, but one piece of evidence stood out, a tape recording, hidden inside a wall of the house next door. On it, a man's voice, terrified, whispering, said, "They're here again. If anyone finds this, tell the truth." Seconds later, you hear a crash, then silence. Who was he talking about? And how did that tape survive all these years? When we confronted the descendants of one of the men named in the letter, they refused to speak. One slammed the door in our face. Another simply said, "You don't know what you're digging into." But the most chilling response came from the last one, a woman who looked us straight in the eye and said, "It's not over. It never ended." And she was right. Within weeks of our investigation, new reports surfaced, another disappearance, eerily similar to the first. Same pattern, same silence from authorities, as if the nightmare that began decades ago was repeating itself right in front of us. But here's the twist that no one saw coming. One of the names in the diary matched the signature on the police report that originally closed the case. The man who declared the murders solved was on the family's list of enemies. He was never investigating the crime, he was covering it up. No one could have imagined how deep this went. And if that was true, then the question becomes, how many other cases were buried the same way? How many families erased? How many secrets still hidden under the surface of that quiet little town? The truth has been buried for decades, but now it's finally coming to light. And the next revelation will change everything you thought you knew about this case, and maybe about the people running the place you call home. If you want to know what they tried so hard to hide next, stay tuned, because this investigation is far from over.